Hi, everybody. This is Elsie Kerns, Wellness with Elsie, your Chaos to Clarity coach and energy medicine practitioner. And we are in the middle of a rainstorm here, so I hope it's not going to affect anything because this is kind of exciting to have Pam with us tonight and talk about this new moon and what it's going to mean for the next lunar cycle. So welcome, Pam. Good to be with you again.
Good to see you too, Elsie. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Pam, I want to start out by asking you a little bit about this special star that is aligned with this particular new moon, Capulus, and what it represents. And I understand it also is tied into President Trump's chart.
It is. It's so amazing. So yes, Capulus is actually it's a group of stars, and it's in the sword hand of Perseus, in the constellation Perseus. And so it represents kind of a forcefulness. It's a very strong masculine energy. It can be kind of ruthless at times. In the positive, what they say is that as long as you keep things honorable, you can be very successful and all of the good things that we associate with leadership and strength. But it also says that there can be a tendency to dishonesty. And so I have another thing to say about it. But first I want to say that the reason it's connected to Trump's chart is that the midheaven in his chart, which is that very top point of the chart, which has to do with our career path. It's really how people see us who don't know us personally. So it's our professional label. He's a lawyer, he's a whatever, she's a mother, he's a father. It's that kind of labeling. So it has to do with our career label. So this new moon is conjunct Trump's chart, his midheaven. And so it could be a time of, a lot of developments for him. We know that in the next 4 weeks, I don't know the date, but there's going to be the meeting with North Korea, and just a lot of things are really bubbling up right now. But what's fascinating to me, I was just reading this morning, and I almost wrote you an email. But there's a phrase associated with Capulus because it's in the sword hand, and the phrase is "off with their heads," which goes exactly with what the phrase that Trump is known for, which is "you're fired."
Yes.
And so to have that be the star at his midheaven, and that's how people see him, I just thought that was fascinating. So for all of that's his chart, and it's it really does activate his career path over these next 4 weeks. So it's going to be really pivotal for him because that star also indicates a really strong desire to succeed and to be powerful and all of that. So we'll see how it transpires for him. For all of us, we get to call on our stronger sides, we don't want to go aggressive, but assertiveness and our strength and what are we willing to fight for, that kind of energy. So, and the other thing about this new moon is that the sun and the moon, so they're aligned in Taurus, but they're in a really nice trine aspect to Pluto. And Pluto is about empowerment. So if we stay on task with this lunar cycle, and we keep our noses clean and do the right thing, hopefully, there can be a lot of success and movement associated with it.
Well, that's great to hear. And I just want to say that in the Chinese element wheel, President Trump is a fire.
Oh,
he's
is he?
A fire element, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, that certainly goes along. That really seems to correspond with what we know about him. Of course, not knowing him personally, but what we can see about him for sure.
Now, can you just shift back a little bit, Pam, and tell us the last time that this configuration happened with Uranus and Taurus and so on, back in 1938 to 1942, there were a lot of significant things that happened. Can you talk about those with us?
Yes, certainly. So just to give a little bit of background, Taurus rules everything practical. the earth, procedures, anything that can be made concrete. And Uranus makes things exciting and brings things new and revolutionizes. So the last time Uranus was in Taurus, I actually have a whole list of things that I wrote down. I can't remember whether I put it on the computer. Yes, okay. So Uranus is going into Taurus tonight, I think it is. I can't remember because Mars is going into Aquarius. We have the new moon, and Uranus is moving into into Taurus. So we have so much stuff happening today. But the last time we had Uranus in Taurus was from June 1934 through May 1942. And it's so interesting because I looked this up today, and in 1934, Kalau had another major eruption. So what's going on in Hawaii now is basically what was going on the last time Uranus went into Taurus, which is kind of boggles my brain. Those aren't the only times that Kalawa. Sorry, my puppy's name is Kalei, and I'm trying to pronounce this name, and I'm completely blowing it. The last time this specific place had a major eruption is not the only time. There have been others, but it just feels kind of astounding that that same year was another major eruption, and here we are getting it again. So Taurus is about the land and infrastructure. So in 34, Roosevelt initiated campaigns to rebuild the infrastructure after the Depression. So bridges, roads, all of those kind of things. There's the Farm Relief Act in 34. In 35, two acts were signed that had to do with how we handle money, which Taurus also is in charge of. So the Banking Act and the Social Security Act. Also, I found this fascinating. So Taurus rules substance, Uranus is new, and nylon was invented in 1935. It was the first synthetic fiber ever produced, and it was introduced in 1935. Swing music was born. Taurus rules music. The Earth-based events, not only the eruption on Hawaii, but 35 was a year of huge dust storms. So there's one specifically called Black Sunday, and it forced like hundreds of thousands to flee their land. That was in April of 1935, and that was huge. There's also a Category 5 hurricane that year. But what we want to start to think about is why this would, these are seeing a lot of kind of horrific things going on, and I don't want to put us in fear about what these next 7 to 8 years are going to mean with Uranus and Taurus. But we need to look at what are they moving us towards, or why is this happening, and how are we supposed to evolve through this? So one really good example is that because of Black Sunday, that big dust storm, Congress passed an act that was about changing farming practices and conserving the earth, and it really started something that needed to happen because lots of events coincided to create Black Sunday, but one of the worst was that the soil was depleted. There was no restriction, there was no control over farming and ranching and all of that. So the Black Sunday caused people to make some decisions and to make some changes that really needed to be made. So, there were lots of environmental things that happened in those years. The last time Uranus was in Taurus, record-breaking heat waves and drought, 37, 40, and 41. They coined the term greenhouse effect. More hurricane, but then we've also got things like, transporting above the earth. So Amelia Earhart, her famous trips, and Howard Hughes set a new round the world record. So there's a lot about kind of rising above the earth and overcoming limitations. So that's inspiring too. New minimum wage was set in the U.S. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is funny too. Taurus rules food and pleasures. So in 1941, drive-in movies were the big thing, and drive-in fast food. So that's the combination of Uranus and Taurus. And of course, the war was going on, attack on Pearl Harbor. That doesn't feel to me as related to the Uranus and Taurus, although, you know, explosions could be a part of that manifestation. So, yeah, and then in 42, car makers, you know, Taurus is about production and creation, and car makers started making weapons instead of cars because of the U.S. going to enter war. So I don't think that's going to happen again, but it's just fascinating to me to see all of these things that transpired, and to think, okay, you know, what's the next 7 to 8 years going to be about? So certainly we know we have environment and climate change. Farming methods are going to have to change, and land use is going to have to change. I think we're going to be using vibration even more for healing, sound vibration, vocal, because Taurus rules the throat and the voice. So using the voice for healing, mantras, chanting, all of that I feel is going to raise in vibration. Banking changes. We already see synthetic meats, you know, so that's definitely Uranus and Taurus. Taurus is the bull. I'm hoping that there's some kind of an equalization of wages. Taurus rules money and wages. New infrastructure. I also think that sacred geometry is going to get elevated in some way, or become more of a focus, or contain some answers that we haven't seen before, because that's also a, you know, that higher vibration of Uranus contained in a physical form. So those are some of the things I'm, you know, anticipating or thinking about.
Well, I just want to interject. I think, wasn't it at this time that the Parker brothers brought out Monopoly, which is still one of the most popular games out there?
Yeah, it is interesting because to me, you know, I played Monopoly as a child, and so it was this fun game where you bought things, and you know, hopefully you won the game because you bought the most property. That was my memory of it. I know that now some people have a bad opinion about Monopoly that I wasn't aware of, because it is kind of money grabbing and all that. But in my child's brain, it's very Uranus and Taurus, because it's all about, okay, I'm going to claim independence and I'm going to own property. So, yeah. And that was created during the last time Uranus was in Taurus. So that's funny.
Well, also we spoke a little bit earlier, you know, Taurus is practical minded, involvement in finances and so on. That I just saw that Goldman Sachs is going to begin selling Bitcoin. So just another introduction to the finances of the world.
Yes, more and more. I mean, we already live by credit cards, but more and more getting into more electronic forms of energy and money exchange. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about, this sounds so wild. Are there ways that you would suggest that we can help take care of ourselves during this long period? Because you're talking about 8 years. I mean, we know it is going into, Uranus is going into Taurus with this new moon tonight, but I hadn't thought about it over an 8-year period.
I know. So, well, one thing is that usually the first shock wave comes at the beginning, because it's a new energy that we're learning to deal with. So I'm feeling it now. I think you're feeling it now. A lot of people I've been talking with have been feeling this energy kind of building over the last 2 weeks. And so it makes sense we're all feeling it very strongly right now. To me, the best ways to kind of move through it are certainly all of our spiritual practices, but Taurus things. So Taurus is about nature and grounding and being centered and taking good care of our bodies and just kind of feeling solid. So I think I listed some of these things in the journal last week, but you know, going out in the garden, walking barefoot on the earth, just being out in nature, listening to beautiful music. Taurus rules all of the senses, tasting, you know, really tasting lovely food, smelling aromatherapy would be great around this time. It really is a representation of Uranus and Taurus because it's an earth-based product, but it's infused with energy, and also homeopathy to me also would be ruled by this. So we can take advantage of many things that are earth related and allow them to soothe and calm us, and staying in gratitude. Gratitude is a quality associated with Taurus because at its best, Taurus is abundant and loves life and loves pleasure, and just makes me think of the, I think it's the second ghost in the Christmas Carol, the Scrooge's story, where it was this abundant Christmas spirit. That to me is kind of the essence of Taurus, but not it can go overboard, but just that abundance and the joy and the generosity and gratitude and open-heartedness, that to me is the energy of Taurus. So the more we can participate in life in that way, and I think whether you do a gratitude journal or, just find things throughout the day to be really thankful for, that shifts energy so much. And if we're thinking about, well, why is Uranus going into Taurus? What is it trying to help us do? It is trying to help us bring this higher energy into the earth plane. And so how can each of us do that on a daily level? And I think it's also, Taurus most of all wants inner peace. That's kind of the end point of the Taurus energy. When I think of Taurus the bull, I don't think so much of the bull in the china shop, although that can be Taurus too. I think of Ferdinand the bull, who sat on the hillside and only wanted to smell flowers and didn't want to be in the bull ring. So if our job is with Uranus and Taurus is to be in inner peace, and yet so much is going on around us, we do well if we can consider, how can I be kind of in the calm? How can I be at the center of the storm where there is a calm? And how can I let what's going on occur without losing my calm? It doesn't mean we don't interact with what's going on as it becomes appropriate, but to come from that Taurian place of calm, which is overlighted by the higher mind, which is what Uranus represents, higher consciousness, which informs us. It helps us know that the physical world is not permanent. It's not the final thing, but we can enjoy it while we're here. So it's going to be interesting to watch this unfold. Every time this happens, it happens like once every 100 years. So we can certainly look forward to innovations. I think some of the things associated with Uranus and Taurus were toilets. Toilets came into being, electric lights in London, physical things, sewers were invented.
Really practical.
Things that take care of our practical world. And we certainly need that. We need solutions or directions with climate change. We need so much. I'm a Taurus, so I feel like, we need to work with the earth. That just feels like such a strong, important thing to me. So let's see if there's anything else I wanted to say. Uranus is a transpersonal planet, so it really is trying to elevate us. It's a part of, anytime it's working with us, it's really trying to help us with our evolutionary process. A couple of other things I wanted to talk about. This eclipse, the new moon that we're having today is actually the check-in point to the eclipse that was on February 15th.
Okay.
This is the March, April, May. It's the third month check-in point. So the sun is now square, 90 degrees away from where the sun was at the time of that eclipse. So we may see events linked, or we may find that we're having to make a new decision, or we're being compelled to look at an issue again. I also want to mention a part of Uranus going into Taurus. We also have Mars going into Aquarius, and this is all happening today as well. So, and then they're going to square each other. Like in Pacific time, it's 12:03 tonight, right after midnight. So we've got two planets changing signs and immediately squaring each other. anytime you get these two in square relationship, you've got a forcefulness and a surprise. So, you know, how that manifests, I think I said in the journal that Uranus refuses to be predicted. So I could say, oh, well, maybe we'll have, you know, more lava spewing or something like that. Something like that tends to go along with a Uranus-Mars square. But to think about it from kind of a spiritual level or a higher growth level, Uranus represents the higher mind, going into Taurus, bringing that higher mind to Earth. And Mars is a fine planet. I'm going to put it in a negative context right now because it is a square aspect. So Mars going into Aquarius would be a strong self-will that doesn't care about others. And so this square is trying to help us see where we do that. We all do that. We all get into our own little places and our own vision, and we forget to look outside of us. But the connection to higher consciousness is what helps us get a different perspective that moves us beyond the battlegrounds. Go ahead. Yeah.
Pam, I just want to comment that from what you're saying, it almost sounds as though this whole event is calling on us to build inner resilience. You talked about how we can hold our own self with all of this going on around us.
That's perfect. That's a great word, inner resilience. That's excellent. Taurus is really ultimately self-sufficient. You know, the image of a farmer tilling his soil with his own hands is very Taurian. Mm-hmm. And to find that within, that inner resilience and the ability to take care of practical matters, that feels right on to me.
And for those people in the Philadelphia area, Pam mentioned that it would also govern homeopathy. And I just want to remind everyone that in Philadelphia, Hahnemann Hospital was named after Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, who created homeopathy in the 1800s. It was a homeopathic hospital before AMA came in.
Well, that's definitely true. I should look that up. I don't know what year Hahnemann started that. I'm going to look it up and see if Uranus and Taurus was at all related to any of his work.
Yeah, I'm sure they were. I want to just thank Kathy for joining us. I see Heidi and Karen said she was so looking forward to this show. Loretta Sadowski, love you. Haven't seen you for a long time. And of course, Denise Grinhart is always on for us. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the little comments they're making and letting us know that they're here for this info. And one more thing I would say, Pam, you talked about how Taurus worked with music and sound, and so much has come out in the last, 10 years about sound healing, and you mentioned chanting and all, how healing this is when you spoke about vibration.
Yeah, that just occurred to me a day or so ago. I was reading through, I have a book that talks about everything that a planet or a sign rules, and I was looking through all of the Taurus rulership list, and I just started thinking, this is the way that those two can combine in a really powerful way. The voice, healing, mantras, chanting, singing, anything along those lines, I think is really going to be elevated. We'll say elevated during this time.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've already seen a lot of that in demonstrations this past year, and people speaking their truth more and more. So I'm sure this is going to continue.
I think so. Yeah, it's kind of building on, the Jupiter in Scorpio, which is revealing a lot of truth, and now we're going to have voices coming forward even more. Yes. So it'll be interesting to stay in the center and stay calm and at peace and in gratitude, and also observe and grow with what we are intended to grow into.
So on this new moon, I just want to remind everyone that you write your abundance check within
Perfect.
24 hours. And I'll put a link down if you haven't done that before. There's a short 2-minute video that'll show you exactly how to do that. So don't forget to do that. Heidi, thanks for sharing the video, and Jody. So everybody seems to be excited about this.
Well, it's very exciting energy. It's, Uranus is full of surprises, but it's about liberation, and it's about something new, and it's about pushing into the future, and so it is very exciting energy. So that's a great way to kind of approach it too, because in our bodies, excitement feels the same as fear. It's just how our mind wraps around it. It's the same feeling inside.
Okay, everyone, let's just go into excitement and let go of fear. Pam, this was so informative, and I so love talking to you and having you break down the astrology into what we can expect every day.
Well, it's great to talk with you, Elsie. Thanks for putting this together.
Yeah, well, thanks everyone for joining us. This is Elsie Kerns, Wellness with Elsie, and I'm going to put the link to the abundance check at the end here. And also, if you want to know how this is going to affect you personally or your chart, also going to put Pam's info up there. You can contact her for personal reading.
Thank you, Elsie. I hope the storm subsides back there.
It has. So we got through without any lights going off or computers.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Pam, it was so good to be with you. And we'll look forward to your July update.
Okay, sounds great. Good night.
Good night, everybody.